So moving on now to the melacha of hotzaa, of carrying. So of course carrying on Shabbat is the 39th and last melacha, which is forbidden. What about on Yom Tov? So on Yom Tov, you're allowed to carry food because that's ochel nefesh. So the Torah allows a person to carry things on Yom Tov, even in a place where there's no eruv, so that a person can exchange food and take food to their friends and so on and so forth, and therefore that's all permissible. But even things which are not food, still it's permissible to carry on Yom Tov when there's a need for it on Yom Tov, because this is the principle of mitoch shehutra. Because it's permissible for the purposes of ochel nefesh, it's permissible even for the purposes not of ochel nefesh. We learned this a couple of weeks ago in terms of heating water. Even if one's heating water and boiling water for themselves to wash their hands, it's still permissible, even though the Torah permitted to boil water for food, but mitoch, because it's allowed for ochel nefesh, it's mutar also not for ochel nefesh. And therefore, all kinds of carrying where there is a need or there is a purpose involved is permissible. One's allowed to therefore push a buggy, carry glasses in one's pockets, and so on. Also, things which are for spiritual purposes, like a lulav, for the mitzvah of lulav, and the shofar as well. Even the poskim, right? Even shofar for something which is not strictly speaking an obligation, such as if a man carries a shofar on Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah to go and blow the shofar for women. There's no obligation for women to hear the shofar on Yom Tov, but there's nonetheless a very old minhag for them to do so. And for that, even though there's no obligation and there's no, in the strict sense of the word, a mitzvah, although it's the good thing and the right thing for them to do to hear the shofar, still that's permissible to do because there is a tzorich there is involved. But the point of all of this is that when there's no tzorich, when there's no need, it's prohibited. If, let's say, a person, therefore, just a person can't say to themselves, I'm not going to check my pockets on Yom Tov just in case I had something there which I don't need, because on Shabbat, he checks his pockets before Shabbat to ensure that he doesn't carry something on Yom Tov. I don't need to do that, and that's not correct. One can't walk around on Yom Tov with something in their pocket if they have no intention of using it. There's no need in carrying it from place A to place B, and that's could even be in Isur Doraita according to some Rishonim, because since there's no need for it, it therefore becomes prohibited. Part of this is also if one is not one's not allowed to carry on Yom Tov for a non-Jew. The carrying on Yom Tov is if, let's say, I'm taking food to another Jew, or I'm carrying something for someone else, for a friend of mine who's a Jew. I'm carrying for him his talit. I'm carrying for him his whatever it may be. But one cannot carry for a non-Jew, and this can be something to think about. If, let's say, a person is walking home on Yom Tov with another person, and that person is someone who's not Jewish yet, but is in the process of becoming Jewish. And that person asks, can you just hold my bag for a moment? I just need to do my shoelaces. Can you just continue walking and take the bag? That a person needs to be careful about. That's a sur, and that's a sur from the Torah, according to all opinions, to do. Well, it's definitely a sur to do. According to all opinions, it's a sur to do, because the Torah only allows for us, for the purposes of Jewish people, not for the purposes of non-Jewish people. And therefore, for non-Jews or for no purpose at all, it's prohibited to carry on Yom Tov. The exception to all of this is in a place where there is an eruv. So an eruv also has validity and utility on Yom Tov, in the sense of that you're allowed to carry in a place with an eruv on Yom Tov, and like you could carry on Shabbat, even for a non-Jew. Of course, not something which is muqtzeh, but anything else is permissible to carry, even if there's no particular purpose. One doesn't need to check their pockets if they're sure they're not carrying a muqtzeh. They may have something in their pocket which they don't need if one's in a place with an eruv, and it's a reliable eruv. And the same applies in Yom Tov. And therefore, if one's in a place with an eruv, then one can carry for a non-Jew, and so on. So in conclusion, all carrying is permissible on Yom Tov when there is a need for a Jewish person, even if that's not a very important need, but any kind of need is permissible. But when there is no need or it's for a non-Jew, it's forbidden on Yom Tov, Unless it's in a place where there's an eruv, then one may carry even if there's no particular need or for the purposes of a non-Jew.